Good day, everyone. Today we're going to talk about summative and formative assessment. To have an overview, our table of contents include the introduction of assessment, formative assessment definition, summative assessment definition, and we're going to discuss the difference between both assessments. So, first, our introduction. Assessment enables students to evaluate their own work and understanding of course concepts. So, assessment should not be seen as a horrifying thing for students that makes them scared whenever there's a test or activity. It should be viewed positively, as the goal of assessment is to encourage students in understanding their own knowledge, make way of improvements, and cater areas of knowledge that seems difficult for them. Also, teachers can use assessment to improve their teaching, adjust strategies, and attain the curriculum goals. Next is according to Assessing Student Learning and Development, a guide to the principles, goals, and methods of determining college outcomes by Irwin 1991. Assessment is the systematic basis for making inferences about the learning and development of students. Assessment is usually given to students to take note of their progress in achieving the course goal. This will help in seeing how well their work or their understanding compares to the stated criteria or to other students' works. It is the process of defining, selecting, designing, collecting, analyzing, interpreting, and using information to increase students' learning and development. It is not just a test given so that students have something to do, but it is important as it enables teachers to keep track of students' learning development, their needs, and how can or what can a teacher do to improve the instruction so that students would successfully understand the course concepts. Also, it is important for students to not see assessment as a bad thing or scary thing because it will encourage them to see where and what areas of knowledge they have difficulties with. Then they can focus on that. Teachers also should see to it that the assessments can test students' knowledge and skills and appropriate for their learning needs. Now for the formative assessment definition. Formative assessment is planned ongoing process used by all students and teachers during learning and teaching to elicit and use evidence of student learning to improve student understanding of intended disciplinary learning outcomes and support students to become self-directed learners. So, in order for a student or a teacher to use effective formative assessment process, rather, it requires both teachers and students to integrate a collaborative and respectful classroom environment. Most importantly, the goal of formative assessment is to monitor student learning, to provide ongoing feedback that can be used by instructors to improve their teaching and by students to improve their learning. More specifically, formative assessment's goal is to help students identify their strengths and weaknesses and target areas that need work. Help faculty recognize where students are struggling and address problems immediately. Now, for summative assessment definition, we have assessment that is intended to evaluate students' learning by comparing performance to a standard or benchmark. They are often high stakes, meaning they have a high point value. Because summative assessments are graded, that is why they are high stakes. They are evaluative rather than diagnostic and are used to measure whether a course learning objectives were met. It is evaluative as it uses evaluation of content mastery. Summative assessments occur at the end of a given period. So generally they are end of course or end of year exams. That's why they are graded. But those are not just the only applicable uses of summative assessments. Evaluating students' learning could come at the end of a chapter or a learning module. Thus, summative assessments can be strong indicators of content mastery in a particular area. Now, let's have the examples of formative and summative assessments. For formative assessments, since they are ongoing, that includes in-class discussions, clicker questions, low-stakes group work, weekly quizzes, 1 minute reflection writing assignments, homework assignments, and surveys. For summative assessments, since it is end of course or end of unit tests, it includes instructor created exams, the standardized test, final projects, final essays, final presentations, final reports, and final grades, since they are graded. Now let's proceed to the both assessments. Let's discuss the formative and summative assessment, their differences. When it comes to grading, formative assessment is usually not graded, while summative assessment is usually graded. For the purpose, formative is for improvement, to give feedback to instructor and students about how well students understand specific material. That includes the strengths and weaknesses of students and constant feedback towards the student by teacher. You, for the purpose of summative assessment, its purpose is for judgment, to derive a grade and to allow students to work intensively with course material. So why there is a constant grading is for the students to have a grade at the end of the unit. Next is for the focus. Formative assessment is very focused on whether students have acquired specific skills or information. While summative assessment rather, it is less focused on specific skills or information. Instead, it allows students to demonstrate a range of skills and knowledge. When it comes to effort, formative assessment requires little time from instructors or students. It is simple and it is usually done in class. For summative assessment, effort is requires more time from instructors and students, since it is the overall understanding of the unit or end of semester results. It is complex. It is done outside of class. And that would be all for my report. Thank you for listening and God bless everyone.